Welcome to That's So Nova. My name is Nova. If this is your first time here, welcome and thank you for coming by. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. I truly appreciate you. Today we're going to be doing a tutorial for the Olivia. Okay, so the Olivia Carry-All Tote is made by Georgia Girl Stitch, and it's a phenomenal pattern. I made one already, and I wanted to show you and make another. I made this bag using my wax canvas. I waxed the canvas from this Harry Potter herbs, and I used that as well as some other previous, this is more like oilskin, and I use a different stabilizer. I used Lazy Girl Soap because I wanted to see what this bag looked like with really a lot of structure. This bag has a really cool feature. It ties at the top for closure. It has two sets of handles, which I really love. They're a long set and a short set. The short set's perfect for putting your wrist in and like having it lay in your elbow pit. That's what I call it, in the crook of your arm. And the long straps are perfect to go over your shoulders. We have a nice slip pocket on the front, and in the inside, oh, she really knocked it out of the park with the inside. On the inside, we have a zipper pocket. We have several slip pockets. This bag is a fun bag to put together. There are a lot of components to cut out, so I highly recommend you to use the labels. I love the closure as a tie. I don't know, it just has this really classy, fun silhouette that I think will be perfect for summer, spring that we're in. And I wanted to use some more wax canvas that I've made. So in this one, we're going to be using some Doctor Who. And at the end, I'll show both bags side by side so you can see what oilskin and what wax canvas DIY style does. So let's get into it. First, you're going to need the pattern. Now, I'm going to put the link to this pattern and our discount for the month of part of March and midway through April for this pattern. And I am really excited for all of us to get to do it. And I really appreciate Joy. Thank you for allowing my group to have a discount, and thank you for letting me sew this pattern. She says this one is really near and dear to her heart, and I can see why. You're going to see why once we make this bad boy together. So you're going to need all the pattern notes, and what we are going to need are in page number 1. There are a few optional stuff like the pocket in the front or the key fob, and you probably want them all so that way you can make the bag as nice as possible. We have where we could put our logos, where we could put our strap ties, the whole 9 yards. If you don't want to use strap ties, you can do a cam snap, a 24 line snap, or a magnetic closure. That can be also really well too. So let's get started. We're going to get some of the prep work out of the way. We're going to talk about a few things. First, we're going to get the bottom of the bag. I'm going to be using all wax canvas throughout this whole entire bag, so I am not really going to be using stabilizer. I'm going to utilize this, like, kind of like the stiffness from the wax canvas on here. Okay, so we're first going to do some measurements, and because this is wax canvas, I'm just going to run my nail. I'm going to use it would help if I use the longer, the longer one, so I can do this. I can run my nail or any kind of tool. My hands are just always my go-to tool. Down both centers, both long edges, I mean. And then we're just going to fold the wax canvas to the line that we just drew. Now, this is what, if you weren't using wax canvas, if you were using leather or any other thing, I would tell you to get double-sided tape or glue. There's something about wax canvas not really wanting to allow you to use double-sided tape, and I know it is really hard for me to not use it, but this is, I find this super humbling and has me thinking out of my creative box. You just gotta fold this down I'm just using a roller, and this roller I got from Emmeline Bags. You know how I love their hardware, and I love their notions. I use a roller all the time. I have rollers everywhere. So I'm going to take this and stick the clip back in it, and then we're going to prep some pocket trims. So we're going to take one, I'm going to take the double slip pocket trim, and I'm going to fold it onto itself. And I'm just going to lightly press using my fingers. And this is the same thing we're going to do for any of the trim. Then we're going to fold it onto itself, meeting up with that line we just creased in. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. And then what I like to do, similar, I'm going to use this roller like I do with an iron, and I'm going to roll this together so that way you can get a nice press. Because if you use an iron, you're going to reheat the wax that you use to cure this, and it won't be good. And your machine won't like you, your iron. All right, so we're going to make the quad slip pocket. Again, truly helpful to have all your pattern pieces labeled. So if you're like me and you're like scrambling to find everything, then it works out. So I'm going to take my quad slip pocket and my quad slip pocket trim and pull those out. So I'm going to take the clip and put it on the side, put my label on the side, because I'm planning on making many of these bags. They're absolutely gorgeous. Very cool ideas. All right. And we're just going to use that crease to make a line we're going to follow. Since there's no double-sided tape, you just really want to make sure you get everything as even as possible, because your clips are going to be your best friend when it comes down to wax canvas. And then I'm going to fold this onto itself, making sure everything lines up, and then using my little seam roller, and wax canvas gets nice and crinkly and distressed. I just love the way it looks when it's all crinkly. It just gives it a nice rugged, lived-in look. All right, so with our quad slip pocket, we are going to take this, we're going to put this on. So what I'm going to do is I like to do like a base stitch to have everything be held together. So I'm just going to do this at scant 1/4 of an inch, or just so that the stitches won't show. And the reason why I do this is sometimes things slip, and the more you can base, the better it is. So we're doing the two open edges and not the closed edge. That's going towards the bag. All right. Trim off those tails. And I'm using water-resistant canvas for the interior. And I'm going to open this up. And just clip this into place. And yes, I know you want to probably just like put the pedal to the metal and let it fly, but I promise you, you want to clip this in place so that you can make sure that everything stays nice and even throughout, and then it just makes your life a whole heck of a lot easier. All right. So we're going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch, and I like to back stitch at the beginning and the end. I'm using a 90-14 needle. If an area gets too tough, I'll switch out mine to a 116. But I don't have a lot of layers, so I feel like I'm going to be okay. Okay. Trimming this excess off. All right. So we have this. It's all sewn back before, so it's nice and good. And we're going to make some marks. I'm going to get a chalk pencil. You can use a Tandy leather pen or whatever is easier for you. Chalk just comes off really easily, so I prefer to use it because it makes the mark that I need, and then I don't have to worry about remarking it. So I'm going to make a mark at the top and at the bottom so that way I can connect the lines. Now the measurements are on page 7. And it's like on the first paragraph. Just make sure. And then I'm just going to connect the line. And go one over. And just take your time with the measurements. I know sometimes it could feel a little taxing, but I promise you it's all going to be worth it in the end. And we have one more mark to make. And one more measurement, a 1/2 inch from that mark. And we have our marks, and they should look exactly like it does on page 7, section D. And there is a warning: be careful with your measurement marks if you're making the smaller version, and make sure you have the right marks if you're making smaller or larger. That's the beauty of this pattern. There are 2 different sizes. So I'm going to set this aside for right now, and then we're going to work on ties. Now the ties are pretty interesting. The ties are pretty interesting. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your fabric and you're going to make a mark on the center. You're going to open it up, and then you're going to make a triangle. This is going to feel like what we did to write notes and make those little football games. Make sure it's even. Then you're going to open it up, and you're going to put your fabric together. And this line that you made with a crease is going to be the line that you're going to use as your triangle that you're going to be, you created your pattern piece. Now this seam allowance for here is 1/4 of an inch. So what I like to do is just where that area is, where the triangle meets the straight edge, I like to make sure I draw this particular area so I know how to transition easily. Once you do that and you go down all the way, you're going to then pull out your ties, and you will have these beautiful ties. Do not have interfacing on this. It will make it more hard and difficult, and they need to be just a little bit more flexible so it's tying. And you have these beautiful points. All right, so now we're going to make the double slip pocket. Let's get that started. I'm trying to put all those other pieces. There's a lot of components to this, but it's worth it. So we're going to make the double slip pocket. And we will need the trim that we just made. I promise you I would lose my head if it was not connected to my body. All right. We're going to take the double slip pocket and by the trim that I just made. I emphasize that so much. I just made it. And there it is on the chair. We're going to take the trim. And we are going to create the double slip pocket. We're going to take this. We're going to take the double slip pocket wrong sides together. Sew the seam allowance at 1/8 of an inch. With water resistant canvas, the wrong side is an area that you can mark with your nails. And we're going to sew this at 1/8 of an inch. Okay, so place the slip pockets right side together and top stitch base along 1/8 of an inch, okay? Okay. We're going to place this trim on top of it. I'm going to clip this in place. It should go on relatively pretty good. Because like although we can't use double-sided tape, it just like kind of grips. Let's see, we're going to now top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch. Back stitch in the beginning and end. All right, and then we're going to make some measurements on this one, on the right side. I know you're feeling like, wait, we didn't close up the inch, Nova. There's a reason. I promise. So we're going to grab our chalk pencil again. That just disappeared. Probably fell down when I was searching for the other thing. Let's see. All right, so we're going to make some marks on section C on page 8. We have 7 3/8. I know when I first made this, I was like, wait, what? What do you mean? Wait, how do we not close up the bottom? There's a reason. I promise. We're going to do that on the opposite side. Same measurements. one, yes, you see chalk just going everywhere, but I promise you that it will go away and then you don't have to worry about any fussy lines. All right. So we're going to start making the exterior front. We're going to take our seam allowance is at half an inch. So be cognizant about that so that everything lines up at the end. 2, you want to make sure that if you have directional print, that you pay attention to how you place your pieces together. I'm using DIY wax canvas and then another wax canvas that also I made probably about a year or 2 ago, and it's really crinkly and I love it. It's blue. So we're going to take this and we're going to take one piece, put the other piece on the side, and we are going to put this right sides together. Again, really paying attention to how the directional is being made, because if I put it on backwards, wax canvas is forgivable because it will show the holes, but if you can restitch right back in the same holes, then you'll be fine. It is definitely a learning curve on that. So again, a half an inch is our seam allowance. And I'm going to pull my threads to the back, and here we go. I'm sewing at a 3.5 stitch length, and a back stitch in the beginning and end. Make sure that everything lines up. All right, and then we're going to do some top stitching. So what I like to do is, because this is both wax canvas, I'm going to get my ruler. I'm going to open this seam and just roll it real quick. Again, these rollers act like irons. A lot of quilters use them too when they're quilting. Instead of, if they don't want to iron, especially in the summer, we're going to top stitch out 1/8 of an inch from the seam. This bag gets big real quick, so have a lot of patience and you'll get through this. And be proud of what you made after you're done. Because this is like a swoon-worthy bag to me. I'm going to go down a stitch or 2, go down with the needle down. What I like to do is I like to put them together where it's like this, and I make a little clip for the centers on both top and bottom. Just a little clip. So that way when I'm trying to line things up later, I'm not trying to struggle. So that's one side done. Let's get this other one done. Okay, making sure right sides are together and directions the right way how I want it. Lining it up a 1/2 inch, back stitching. I like a 1/2 inch because I feel like if you mess up, you have way more wiggle room. Press open those seams. You can finger press these too, especially if you're using wax canvas or oilcloth. Finger press is really nice. You probably could do it with cotton too, but The roller just helps speed up it a little bit. 1/8 of an inch. See. Hold on 1 second, let me get this bobbin. It's kind of acting a little bit wonky. It's okay. I'm gonna restitch this one area. If this bobbin will work out for me. I'm using a polyester, but I'm using a new thread. I usually use Saba. This is a Coats and Clarks. It doesn't feel like 40 weight, but that's what it's being advertised as. So I'm trying to think, you know, different threads, different brands. So far, I'm not a huge fan, but let me look at it more when we finish the bag, and then I can go from there. It just feels a little bit thinner than what I'm used to, but sometimes that's how thread is. It's doing it again. All right, I will be right back. Sorry about that. I had to change thread. I'm hoping this works out, and maybe I need to give my machine a really good clean. So after you top stitch, we're going to take our ties and we're going to baste them. One thing I do is I always put them in the same direction, and there's a reason, because when they go on opposite sides, they will have this, the angles will go on differently. So when they're both like this, when they go on the opposite sides, they're automatically pointed. But so you baste them together in the same direction so you can have that effect. I know that sounds like it's really simple, but it's something that my brain somehow always forgets. So I'm going to find the center, and I'm just going to put a little clip there, and I'm going to baste this on. I'm going to move my clips so that they don't fall. Okay. I have the clips caught in threads. Cut all the threads. All right, so we baste that on. So always find your centers. It helps tremendously. Then we are going to put on the pocket. So you figure out which area you want to have the front pocket on. I'm going to use this one because it's right here, and I'm going to grab the pocket pieces. And I have my pocket right here. We're going to put that on. If you have leather, you don't have to do right sides together, but if you don't, then you're like me and you have to do it. So one thing I noticed, what I've been doing a lot lately is I've been like measuring and like, how can I say this? I've been measuring and like kind of folding before I start, so that way I can have a nice clean edge. So I'm measuring down, and I'm going to assemble this by pressing this towards the line I just drew. So I drew in like you can do a 1/2 inch, 1 inch, whatever, how big you want this pocket to be. And I'm going to just press that with my fingers, and then I'm going to kind of do the same with this, except I'm going to use some double-sided tape. So like I said, the wrong side scratches. If it's not, see how it automatically started scratching on that one. The wrong side scratches. And I can just use my nail. And then I'll grab some 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape. Again, the double-sided tape will not work on wax canvas. It's like a no bueno. It just is like, nope. Because it has a waxy surface, so the glue just doesn't adhere. And then I'm just going to all right, and we're going to kind of sew around this at like a 1/4 of an inch. And then we're going to put it on. I like to clip the top first. And then everything kind of just falls into place. I'm going to go 1/4 inch around. You can do a 1/2 inch, 3/8 of an inch. Without the thread breaking, I'm wondering what is going on. I'll be right back. Okay, so I was wrong. It's not 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch. If you go to page 24, there's an actual pattern piece, and it advises you to sew a 1/2 inch, and it shows you what to do for trim. I don't have any more of that wax canvas to do a trim, so I did the fold over method like I showed you. Yes, you lose a little bit more length of the pocket, but the results come out really, really nice. Look at how that fabric crinkles. You know how I love some wax canvas. Let's see. So I'm going to get my pointer tool and just slightly round out and oops, there I cut into the seam on this one, the seam allowance. So I'm going to go back around that. I'm going to do that at 1/8 of an inch. Sometimes it happens. If it happens, it's not the end of the world. You can fix it. Especially, you know, cloth is so much more forgiving than vinyl. Okay. Rounding this out. There we go. Nice and clean. So if you want to, you can roll out the seams just to flatten them before we top stitch this onto the back. I'm going to top stitch the top because this has to be closed. This is the pocket top. But see, I like the way it looks with turning it out, turning the seam allowance 1/4 of an inch in or 3/8 of an inch, whatever is easier for you. I think I did a 1/2 inch. I have thread all over me. I'm just going to trim really close because you don't want to have your lighter. Oops, sorry if I jostled. Okay. So you go to page 25 to show you how to do this, and now we're going to place this down. We're going to take our exterior, and there's some measurements we want to do. We're going to go 1 inch down from the, I'm just going to mark where my center is on that. Again, wax canvas, perfect little marker. We're going to do just want to put the markings because it tells you to go 1 inch down and 4 inch inside. I'm just using my nails, a little marker, and I'm going to line everything up. Now here is the tricky part. Since you can't use double-sided tape on this, you can use Sew-Tites, which they're a magnet that will help. You can't use a needle or the holes will show. This is why I draw my little markings and I keep everything as close as I possibly can be to that line. It's a little bit more trickier with wax canvas. If you're doing this cotton, you could pop a couple pins in this bad boy and call it a day. Magnets are your best friend when you're dealing with wax canvas, or if you want to live dangerously like I am, I'm going to top stitch. And what I like to do is an anchor stitch or a bar tack. I like to move and go inside 1, 2, and then go out, and then needle down. And I'm going to make sure everything lines up to that 1 inch mark, and I'm within that 4. And I'm going to top stitch. If you have to stop, stop with the needle down. Slowly turn, pivot. Okay. Just holding everything nice and tight. And I'm going to do a bar tack on this side, and then I'm going to sew up the center so I can have 2. You can have 1 large slip pocket, or you can have, 2 nice size ones. So I'm going to go up the center. And I'm just going to use, I'm going to trim threads in the back. Let's see. Okay. Okay, let's pull up our tails. Oops, there goes my roller. Take your time, breathe with your top stitching, you're going to be okay. And then when I get to the top, I again do that same little bar tack, because this is going to have a high level of like friction, and you can do a rivet, or you can do a bar tack, or I call also chicken fingers. It's like a V. Chicken toes. I'm going to trim also back threads. All right, so we have our really beautiful top. That's super cute. I like that. All right, so now we're going to do some measurements, and we're going to cut out some boxes. This can be done in your prep work too. You do what is ever easier for you. I'm going to get my ruler. And let's see, 2.5. I'm just going to draw the little boxes and then I'll cut them all out. And just make sure you measure as accurate as you possibly can. It helps with the finished project. Alright, and we have one more to measure out and then we'll cut them out. I like all the little crinkles because they have like these these areas that like you can see where this was the color previous to getting waxing. Waxing makes it a little bit darker, but still it's something to like be cognizant about. Like, so if you're really looking for like a light blue like you see in these creases, you might want to do a patch test with your however you're waxing it to see if it goes darker or not. So many threads. Try to trim up all your threads so that way you don't get a bird's nest. A little nesting action. I hate when that happens. It could be frustrating. So frustrating. All right. We have these little squares. I don't throw these away because they're wax. You can use these in another project, like if for zipper tabs or what have you. So if you're able to save. If not, completely understand. So we're going to put these right sides together. Put our ties on the top. Have everything matching. And then we're going to sew down at a 1/2 inch on the bottom. Make sure you back stitch at the beginning and end and not drop a million things like I am doing. I like back stitch like 3 or 4 stitches. Sometimes I go off and then I go back on. And before you do this, I always tell people if your measurements are a little off, make sure you measure the sides by side first. So that way if it's a little bit off, you can adjust it with the bottom. So we're going to take the seams. And we're going to roll these seams and then we're going to machine baste 1/8 of an inch each down each side. So you're just going to kind of roll or squish your bag a little bit. I know it's not super fun, but these stitches help reinforce the area. Make sure that your ties and everything are out of the way. Needle down. Hop over a few stitches and go down the other side. I have spilled so much today. I spilled a can of soda. I have spilled a lot. So we're going to grab our main center panel. I wanted to find, I didn't know if I didn't have any gray wax canvas, so I did do the bottom panel like just the same color blue, but it's okay. And let's beginning when we were prepping the bag, the bottom, we have measurements that we folded in, and then we're going to top stitch and adhere it to the bottom. So make sure you have all the markings that you need to work, and you want to make sure you definitely have it even Steven on both sides, right in the center. I'm just going to clip that in place and do the same thing on this side. I just fold lightly, not trying to get a permanent crease, but just trying to gauge where the centers are in the middle, so that way I'm not struggling. All right. So on page 12, we're going to look at where the line is, make sure we have it on point, and then we're going to sew this down 1/8 of an inch down both sides. Just roll up your bag. I know it's a lot, but it's going to be all worth it. Okay. I'm just going to base the sides down. So when we put it together, there's no like gaps, because sometimes if I don't base things down, what happens is I'll miss a layer, and then I'm like unpicking, telling the sewing world that it doesn't love me. You know, so on and so forth. All right. I have like a million scissors right on my area. Okay. That's the scissors I was looking for. And just try to get those threads as close as you can, because again, if you have the lighter, you're going to re-melt the wax and it's not going to be fun. All right, so we're going to put the handles on, and I wanted to show you this. If you don't have, because I didn't have a great catalog for just for the handles that match this color. So I wanted to show you a few alternatives. Okay, so I'm going to be using this really pretty color for the short handles. Cool, beautiful. But I had nothing that was 1.5 inch wide for the long handles, so I actually made them out of the wax canvas so that they could look more cohesive. Or I could have made them out of the ties so they can be cohesive too. But another option is leather. You don't have to sew the leather. You can like round the corners and punch a hole and put it in at the end of the bag, and they can be it too. If your machine can handle it, you can sew leather onto it too, and it could be a beautiful accent piece. So just throwing that out there, there's always options. I did not have 1.5 inch blue nothing. So I was like, okay, I'm going to just do this. So we're going to center we're going to center these, and we're going to base on both sides 1/8 of an inch on each handle to have them become one, which I think that's really cool. So I'm going to bring this over, make sure it's not twisted, and bring the short handles over and make sure that's not twisted, and continue to base. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I don't have the biggest webbing collection. I need to do better because I know webbing is in so many patterns, but I'm so used to making straps by now that when I overlook webbing. All right, so I'm gonna just trim those threads and pull them back, and we have our handles. But again, you can use leather or whatever is easier for you. All right, so there's some markings we're gonna do. I'm gonna scoot these handles over here. And again, that center mark plays a really good point for us. We're going to measure 3.5 inches to both sides. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to grab my handy dandy ruler and not have you guys covered up by fabric. And I'm going to measure 3.5 inches, and I'm going to put a chalk mark. Same thing on this side. And then I'm going to put some clips. We're going to take the short handles are going to be the ones that you see up facing towards you. So I'm just going to clip that in, and we're going to base that in at 1/8 of an inch, and then we're going to follow the same thing we did on the other side. I'm just going to sew across using a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm thinking I needed to replace my needle because I'm really bad at that. I don't know who else is here with it. I know you're supposed to change your needle with every job, but I try to change it once a day because it depends on what my jobs are. But sometimes you gotta change that needle up to have a nice fresh one. All right, so we're going to find our centers again and make some marks. Chalk pencil. Okay, always measure twice. Have your short handles facing you. We're going to do a 1/4 of an inch. All right. Let's see. Right. Then we're going to sew the sides up. So you're going to have a lot of material. So just the first thing you want to be just cognizant on is making the seam to seams match. That is the most important part. I usually would put double-sided tape on that so that it doesn't shift. But again, wax canvas does not like that. So we're going to do one side at a time. And we're going to go a 1/2 inch. The most important thing being that the side seams match together. Take your time. I always try to backstitch really well at the end in the beginning. I always like to backstitch on a side seam just for the luck and measure, I guess. And then let's do this. Sorry, I keep knocking you over. Let's do that on the other side. I'm measuring, not measuring, I'm going to check the side seams first and get that as on point as I can. We're going to go up the side at a 1/2 inch. Okay. Trim those threads. I have like, I say trim those threads, and then when you look up, I have like a million threads. Now we are going to trim the seam allowance to 1/4 of an inch. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. I know some people, I know I can speak for myself, there was a time where I wouldn't trim the seam allowance because it was extra time and I just wanted to get done. And I realized as the more I sew how important it is to trim the seam allowance because it helps reduce bulk drastically. All right, so we're going to finger press the small seam allowance open, and we're going to put some clips, and we're going to sew at a 1/2 inch. What I like to do is I like to do that on both sides first. Match things up as nicely as I possibly can. Okay, and we're going to squish down our bag and we're going to sew it at a 1/2 inch. And again, for some reason, I always like to back stitch over a seam for extra security. And then we're going to trim that up at 1/4 of an inch too. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on this other side, and then we're going to see all of our hard work for the exterior, because we just did a lot of work. Okay. All right, so let's turn this right sides out. Let's poke out these corners. You can see our hard work. So this is the back, what it looks like, all nice and crinkly, and the front, all nice and crinkly. This is going to be super cute. And then we have the bottom of our bag. Again, you can play around with some of the interfacing. I made one that had like the Lazy Girl stiff stuff in it, and I like the way it turned out. I think it would be cute with foam. A lot of different materials. Fleece would make it nice and soft. So we have that. And now we get to work on the interior. So put this on the side. And we are going to start working. We're going to take your, you need your quad slip pocket, the one that we just made with all the markings. That's extremely long. You need the quad slip pocket, and you also need your interior center 1. Interior center 1. And in case you forgot to put your slip pocket, that's going to be the one that is 15 by 16. So 16. All right. Remember, what you want to also remember with every pattern designer has a way they do the measurements for Georgia Stitch. It's width times height. So if you are doing the 15 needs to be the width, and the height needs to be at the 16. Just, I want to clarify that. All right. We're going to measure down. We're going to find our centers. So let me just press this. This is a really cool pocket. I'm not going to lie. When I first did it, I was like, what are we doing? And then I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. We're going to go 2.5 inches down. And we're going to put this in the center. I'm going to find my center here. And I'm going to pop a pen. Yes, with water-resistant canvas, I noticed that I could pen and there will be no holes. All right, so on the edge of this, you need to do a couple measurements. You need to make sure on each edge it's 2.5 inches. This is critical. Not 2 3/4. It needs to be 2.5. If it's not, if one side is longer than the other, you need to readjust so that it's the right size. On both sides. And trust me, I had to redo this like with on the first one like 4 times because it's really important. All right. So this both equals that. So what we're going to do is we're going to create these lines. We're only going to go up and down these lines. And you can see the demonstration, the stitch lines on page 15, number 2. Now, you could put rivets in here. I'm going to put bar tacks. So I'm tacking down every area really, really well. Back stitching well. And I'm going to bring and I just broke the thread again. It is not my thread day, my friends. It is not. It happens and we just keep pushing on, right? We're going to sew our tack down on each side, and then you could put a rivet on each little column that we made, I would recommend putting like a leather washer behind each one because it can rip through if it doesn't have something to just support it. Or you can do like a Peltex washer, something that is, you know, has a substantial weight and won't pull through. All right, and we're gonna do this on here. Try to stop in the needle down position. I just pulled my threads to the other side. Sometimes I do that, so I don't have to keep holding on to the threads. If you want, I think a really cool feature you can do for the bag is if this was contrasting thread, like if I was to use white or a darker blue, it's easier, one, for the person to see the pockets. Two, it makes a really cool feature. All right, let me pull these out. All right, so we have that done. And if you want, you can put, like I said, a rivet on each one. I just bar tacked across so that way it can just be functional. It's really cool though to have the rivet. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to clip them down and out of the way. This is why we didn't sew the bottom or anything, so we can put these out of the way. All right, we're going to take our zipper and we're going to baste this on. I'm going to baste this on, baste across the top with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. This is, I'm telling you, when you do this, you're going to be like, I'm going to put this in all my bags. She is so brilliant for this. I do not have my pull on yet. It'll be on shortly. I just like to basically put the zipper in without having to move my pull. And I'm using a size 5 zipper. And then I'm going to take the zipper lining and it's a huge lining, so right sides together. And we're going to sew this at 1/4 of an inch. I have tails everywhere. We're going to put this right sides out, and then we're going to top stitch the zipper down at 1/4 of an inch. then I'm going to put the zipper pull on. So you can see me struggle with that for a minute. It's like either a complete hit or a total miss with the zipper pull. Like either I got it or I don't. And then I'm like, oh man. It's like no pressure, no pressure. Yeah, man. Okay, so no, that was just a lot. Then we're going to go to page 17 and we're going to take the zipper pocket and get the right sides of the zipper pocket to match on the top of the zipper. So we're creating the pocket. You can clip in place. You are using cotton. You can pin it, or you can use 1/8 of an inch double-sided tape to make sure it doesn't like move. But I'm going to just face this in place. That's super cute. All right, so then we're going to grab some of our side pieces and we are going to again, wrong side is all waxy. We're going to put these on with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. You can clip it in place. If you made yours by a little bit longer, you can trim it up at the end. Because I did. I think I always do. Because I think what I did last time is I think I did 15 and 15 instead of the 16, and that was not, it's not fun. So 1/2 inch on this side as well. Back stitch. And what this is doing is it's closing up the pocket at the same time. Trim. Okay. We are going to now top stitch at 1/8 of an inch onto the flap, not onto the center panel, on the outer panels, little wings. Same thing. Trim. I'm trying to get better at trimming my threads. I'm really bad at that. Like I'll sit up. I don't know about you, but when I stand up, I have like just a nest of threads. So you want to just make sure your seam allowances are going the same way you're top stitching. So we want it to go towards the flats, so we can get it all together. Trimming the threads. And you want to make sure that this is 16 inches high. If it's a little bit taller, you need to trim it up. So 16 inches and 20 by 20. What I did last time is I waited to I waited till I had the other piece and then I trimmed everything up just to make sure. So this the width needs to be 20-inch wide and the height needs to be 16 inches tall. So we'll get to that because this is a little bit taller, but we are going to release the crack and flaps. And see, you can kind of see where it needs to be trimmed up. And we're going to sew the bottom. So what I'm going to do is sew the bottom. And then I'm going to put this one aside, and when I make the other one, I'm going to break and you won't notice, and I'm going to make sure I trim them up to the correct sizes. It's really crucial. You don't want like a baggy lining, and you don't want your project to get messed up. So I'm going to put this one to the side and wait, no, hold on. I'm going to cut it now and I'll be right back. Okay, so I cut it down, and now I'm going to put the top, what is that piece called? I apologize. We're going to assemble the top portion of the exterior top to it. We're going to use a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. If you have a zipper, move it out of the way so that can just be nice and even. Okay, we're going to trim those threads up. We are going to top stitch. Oh, I did not line that. This is what happens when you don't line those things up. I did not line this good up to here, so it did not catch. So I'm just going to re-sew those parts down. It happens. That's why we were supposed to clip. But I did not, and that's the consequence. All right. Now I'm going to press the top and then top stitch. Trim those threads. Right, that's one down. And what I like to do is I like to again find my centers so that when we are even constructing the bag together, we know where our centers are, you know. So we're going to now cut a 2.5 inch block. Sorry if I sound really congested. I have like a sinus infection and I am really nasally. My nose is all whistling. I apologize. Just bear with me. Sometimes I use the squares that I previously cut as templates so that way I can save time on the next one. All right, so we're going to now assemble the last pockets. We're going to get our center, which I'm using one of the prints. We're going to get our center and we're going to grab that pocket that had the raw edge, and we were like, no, why are we doing this? We're going to baste it on. I'm going to grab some clips, learn from my previous mistakes. Don't get cocky. Clip this in a couple spots so that there's no shifting. Make sure raw edges are with raw edges. And we're going to align down. And we're going to go up and across. Send needle down. Needle down, across. You can have some fun too. Sometimes like when I have patches like this, I'll like do like a decorative quilting design, like little mountains and peaks, just to give it some more depth. And I'm going to finish going across. And I'm just going to base the sides. I just, you don't have to actually. You'll see why. Because we're going to push them down. So we sewed this down and we did some bar tacks. Now we're going to get the interior part 3. And we're going to put this together at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I'm just going to trim up these sides that I had a little bit of excess because I don't want that to be caught in my seam allowance. I'm going to finger press this down. And I'm going to top stitch. So the little rule of thumb is we always want to top stitch the panel that we have the seams go towards. How this panel comes together. So then we're going to put the little wings on. So I'm going to put, I have a little label that says it's bigger on the inside. So I'm going to just, I want to base that here because why not? It looks cute. I always forget to put my own name label, but I always like to put cute nerdy labels because people really appreciate that and they love them, and it's just something extra to the bag. So I'm going to clip this in place and I'm going to sew up. We're going to be trimming the bottom like we did the other one and probably the sides. So 1/2 inch. Finger press, open. It looks so pretty. I love how crisp and clean it looks. Look how nice that looks. It's so pretty. And I always start from trying to put this on the very top because I know we're going to trim off from the bottom. So that's where I usually back stitch from. So on the very top. Trim those threads. Finger press. And it's base and top stitch this down. what I do before I try to trim it is I'm going to put the top on, and then I'll put the two together. Now, I always forget this, but this is the perfect place to put your ring or your D-ring or your swivel hook for your keys. I always forget to do those. I always forget the piece and the pattern. I have no idea why. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mark my centers. You'll see why, because if I mark my centers and then put the other panel on here, I can measure it out right and trim out right. And I don't have to, because if I trim it right now, it's going to be shorter than the original pattern piece. You'll see in just a minute. I'm going to put that on. We're going to use a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, not a 1/2 inch. The reason why I'm like whistling, because I remember in the pattern there's very specific 1/4 of an inch and a 1/2 inch. And you don't want to do something where you're like, okay, I'm stuck now. I did something wrong. I mean, we all do things wrong. That's just part of the sewing. Like, that's part of what we have to do, but prevent it at all costs. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to top stitch this. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my other piece, and you're going to see what I do. I'm going to kind of clip and trace. So this part fits, and then I'm going to clip these two on the top, and then I'm just going to trace like around what I need to cut out and cut it out. Or you can bring this to your mat and cut it out. But if you're like me and you're like, hey, I'm already at my sewing machine, let's make it work. This is where you would just mark where you need to cut at, and you would cut. And it helps, so because if you accidentally cut uneven, this is the place where you can mark and fix it. Yep, and I usually just trace and cut at my table if I have enough room. It depends on how many projects realistically I have going on. Sometimes I have way too many projects, so I just do it at my table. Sometimes I'm just kind of lazy and I don't want to get up because I'm in that Sojo mode. And you know that your panels are like perfectly now symmetrical because you just copied and traced. Okay. All right. And it's all done. Ta-da! Okay. So now we're going to put these pieces together. And this is going to be on page 21. we're going to start at a 1/2 inch, and then we're going to kind of veer to a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance to help and to just help have a nice top lining. Again, the most crucial part is making those points match so it can look really awesome. Gives it a nice, clean, professional feel. All right, we're going to start at a half an inch, and then we're just going to kind of veer into a 5/8 of an inch. Some areas could get a little bit thick and we need to get it to our hump jumper. By all means, go for it. All right, so I'm going to do 5/8 of an inch down at the bottom. So I'm going to not trim my tails. I'm just going to bring my tails over. I'm not going to sew all the way. I'm just going to sew like 2 or 3 inches in and then bring my threads over to the other side. It's a lot of, I want to say fun, lazy sewing, but it just makes your life easier so you don't have to kind of stop and go. So I'm going to, while I'm over here, I'm going to match the sides real quick with the clip. That way I know exactly where things are falling. Oops. My top thread. I didn't know. That's the negative with that. But it's cool. We're at the home stretch now. All right. Grab those tails. Go to that 5/8 back stitch. Now, right after we hit this area, we're going to start veering to a 1/2 inch. Without knocking you guys over. All right, I think we got it. All right, so we left a gap. I'm going to trim up those threads. And then we're going to trim up the 1/2 seam allowance to like 1/4 of an inch to reduce bulk in the bag. I'm not going to trim the bottom because I'm going to need all that when I birth the bag. When I close it up, I want it to be nice and crisp without trying to figure out why is this not matching up. All right, so now that we got that, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to match seam to seam. And I'm going to go 5/8 of an inch because I want a nice, like a nice taut lining on the bottom and not baggy. Back stitch well, and like I said, for some reason I just go over seams like they're zipper tape. I don't know why. I'm going to trim that down to 1/4 of an inch. Hot mess with threads over here. Come on, Nova. Pull it together. Push this down, get it squishy with it, and let's do 5/8 of an inch on this side. Okay. So we have our lining. So we're going to take our lining, we're going to assemble the interior with the exterior. We're going to make them become one. You can figure out which pocket. I like to have the zipper pocket towards the back. So when I put this in together, I'm going to have the lining, have the back pocket to the back. I'm just going to clip things together. It gets a little, you have to get a little squishy, and I promise you it'll all work out. We're going to match seam to seam. Try to open up the seam if you can. And again, I'm going to mark center to center. Same thing. Seam to seam. All right, so I'm just going to pull everything nice and taut as I can and pop some clips in it. Open a clip and it's like full of threads and you're like, yeah, that's not what I wanted. And this is also like your lining, your top was like a little wonky. Everything will start matching up as you clip, and you can reposition stuff. It's a nice fit. All right, so now we're going to assemble the bag. So we're going to do, we have it, we're going to insert the exterior to the lining, and you're going to clip, tuck tabs, and you're going to sew with a 1/2 inch seam allowancer all the way around. And when I'm on my straps, I like to do a couple back stitches, and I just rotate, and my bag is nice and squishy because it just has the wax canvas for the interfacing. If you're using cotton, there was instructions to use like Pellon 110, SOF 101, or like Sofuse like Monica has, and this will help you get a little bit more structure, but the bag doesn't need a lot. I know for me personally, when I have like a big tote, I don't want it to be super structured. I want it to be like kind of soft against my body. So it all depends on what you want. I did mess around with, like I said, Lazy Girl Sews, or you can, I think foam would be nice, or sew and fleece. If you have wax canvas, you can't use heat on your material, or like I said, it will remelt the wax that's on there. So something to think of. And just coming together. All right. So we're going to trim the threads, and we are going to sew. Now we're going to sew around the seam allowance like we did, and we are going to pull through the half our opening. And because this is wax canvas, it's going to come in real nice. It would help if I cut my tails. I got excited. I was like, yes, home stretch. I'm just going to tuck the bag back into itself. It's like you're pushing the bag's insides into it. It's like wanting to go back, but wants to struggle with you. Okay. Okay, and then what I do is in the little areas, I'll clip it where I know when I'm doing my top stitching, I want to make sure that this bag is all nice and cool and crinkly from the canvas. All right. So now we're going to do some top stitching. You could turn the bag inside out to top stitch, or you can just, because it's so soft, you can kind of just squish it down and do it. And that's what I fully intend to do. And I'm going to increase my stitch length to a 4, just so I can go through all the layers. And I like the look of the longer stitch length when it's top stitch. So I'm going to do a few back stitches and I will go from there. Just rotate your bag around and make sure that your handles are not getting sewn, like tucked under. Needle down. Needle down, reposition. Reposition. Right? All right, so then I'm going to take the bottom of the lining and I'm going to close it up. So I like to just, before I close it up, I'm going to poke out the corners really, really well with my index finger. And then I'm going to close this up. I'm going to go on both sides of like the little mouth and then clip, keeping it nice and taut. And then we're going to reduce our stitches back down to a 3.5 and we're going to close it up. Having thread that matches helps tremendously with this, because then the closer your threads look to the bag, this is a really good match. That's red color. All right. Squish the bag back into itself. It should go a little bit easier this time than the first time. Not a whole lot, but you know, nonetheless easier. Okay. All right, and then I'm going to tie this up, and then I'm going to grab the second bag so you guys can see both wax canvas bags right next to each other. Oh gosh, this is so cute. And it's standing up without any interfacing. Gotta love wax canvas. Okay, let me tie this bow up. I love the bow, but if you're not a fan of the bow, which I like because it's like you see, it just feels really organic and natural. All right, so we have 2 bags, one made with like oilcloth waxing and oilcloth skin. This one is all wax canvas throughout the whole bag, the whole exterior. There are 2 awesome bags. You have so many slip pockets. You have a huge zipper pocket that you can put a tablet. She even recommends that on her zipper tablet, she likes to interface it with fleece because she knows most people are going to put a tablet or a computer in it. That is genius. It gives it the cushion it needs in case it bumps into something. And if you use like an OtterTex or waterproof canvas or vinyl on the outside, it can help with any moisture that tries to seep in. So we have both these bags. The Olivia is really special to Georgia Girl Stitches, and I'm going to give you the information. I did have it up on my computer, but alas, I did not pay attention. All right, so hold on. She is giving us a nice deal, and I would like to, of course, it's going to be, hey, Nova, there's so many texts going through, messages go between us. All right, so we're going to use a coupon code all the way. You have a coupon code all the way to April 30th. Hold on. You're going to use Nova, N-O-V-A, 25 Olivia, O-L-I-V-A. And I will put, N-O-V-A 25 O-L-I-V-I-A. And this will give you guys 25% off of the Olivia bag. That's right, 25% off. And that's a big deal. These designers are small business owners. And when they give us a deal, that is incredibly sweet because, you know, they don't have to. So you can get the Olivia all the way up until April 30th by using that code. And I want to see your guys' bags. If you want to post your bags, you're more than welcome to post on my Facebook group. That's Sew Nova. And I want to see what you make. And if there's another Georgia Stitch pattern that you want me to make, please comment down below. If you have questions about anything that we did here today or materials that I forgot to list in the description box, by all means, ask me away. I hope you really enjoyed this. There's only a handful of designers that I have like their almost whole entire collection, and Georgia is too. She has like 3 more patterns, and then I'm hoping she does some more so that way I can make some more. I love her style. It's very organic. Her and her husband make beautiful bags together, and you definitely need to check them out. I will put a link to her website, and you can pick up the Olivia for 25% off, as well as I'll put down her Instagram. She has really good tidbits of information things I'm constantly learning from her, and I appreciate it. She has a Facebook group where people show off their makes, as well as she has a Facebook group, I said that, and her Instagram. Oh, her subscription to her newsletter. Her newsletter comes out with like free patterns as well as like tidbits of information, just so you know. So again, like, subscribe, and comment down below. It helps out the channel tremendously. And until the next time I see you, happy sewing and have a good day. Bye.